Right, now it's time for The Voice on Champions League Drive, which means we're joined in the studio by the voice of boxing, Adam Smith. Adam, good to see you.
Hi.
Usually we start off with, of course, your jingle, and we have some fun with you and so on, but obviously it doesn't feel right to do that
No.
this afternoon because on Sunday afternoon we all found out the absolute horrific news of the passing of Ricky Hatton. It's difficult for everyone to talk about because everyone sort of feels that they knew Ricky Hatton really well, and if they met Ricky, they've got a great story. But it's even more difficult for you because I know you two are really, really close. You on his entire journey from beginning to end, and I'm guessing. I know you spoke about it ever so briefly yesterday for talkSPORT, but I'm guessing it's still incredibly raw for you to talk about. Firstly, how are you? Are you all right? Because you've lost a really close friend.
Yeah, not really, actually, to be honest, Andy. And thanks for asking. It's shocking news. It's horrific. Yeah, my whole family is suffering. We were really, really close to Ricky. I grew up with him in boxing at Sky. He was our first real sort of homemade fighter, and with Frank Warren and Billy Graham and the team in Manchester, we just had the most incredible ride with him. He was the most accessible athlete I think I've ever worked with. There was really nothing we couldn't do with Ricky. He was up for a laugh. He was up for hard, serious training. He was always the same. He never changed. He was a boy from the council estate in Hyde, and we got to know his family and become part of it. My cameraman at the time, David Kane, and I, we almost lived with the Hattons. Fight after fight, the build-up, and the journey as it all snowballed, and the crowds got bigger and bigger, and everybody got to realise what a wonderful guy he was, what an exciting, fantastic fighter inside the ropes, and what a beautiful soul outside of it. The Manchester City fan who could unite Manchester by being mates with Rio Ferdinand and also mates with the guys down the local pub. He was extraordinary, and yeah, it's a really hard time, and I'm going to miss him hugely.
We talked about this on yesterday's show, and one of the things I said to Benty was when someone famous passes, lots of pictures of that famous person go up on people's social media posts, and very rarely are they standing next to that person. But it felt like every single person had a picture of them with Ricky Hatton, and I think that's incredibly rare that someone who was such a superstar that everyone felt connected to him. Everyone had a Ricky Hatton story. Everyone was desperate to meet him, desperate to be in his company, listen to him.
The outpouring over the last 48 hours, I've spoken to some of the family and to Paul Speak, his best mate, and who said he was in a really good place, beforehand. And I know he had plans with his girls to take him to Oasis, and he had an exhibition fight in December. It's come right out of the blue. He obviously had his issues with depression, with his problems outside of the ring, and I think he found it very difficult to come to terms with the Manny Pacquiao fight. But he was back training. He was back in a good place. It's absolutely tragic. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The outpouring has been immense. Every single person has got a Ricky Hatton story, and I think that was the magic of him. I think that of those 20-odd thousand at the Manchester Arena, or the 30,000 that travelled to Vegas for the Mayweather fight, I think most of them had either had a pint with him or had a chat with him, and I think that's what he was. He was always accessible, is the word I keep going back to. We get close to fighters, of course, over the years. You do, as this very, very beautiful, wonderful sport that I've spent 3 decades in, but I don't think there's anyone that's been like Ricky Hatton in terms of popularity as well as his skill set and just down to earth. He told me once, Andy, that I think we'd had 3 or 4 fights of his pro career, and he had a few hundred. He was selling out Wythenshawe in the smaller forums at the time, and he had an old banger. He was a big Only Fools and Horses fan. He eventually, I think, got the trotter van, but anyway, he had this old banger, and he was rolling up the road in Hyde, and trying to change the gears. And I said to him, what happens when you win everything? Are you going to still be like this? He said, don't ever let me change. I never want to change. I never want to be that guy that is too big for his boots. I always want to be that guy that's relatable to everyone. I'll give all the belts back if it means I change. He was a one-off. And I mean, I've said it in the last couple of days. So many people have, that there will never be another Ricky. That there will only ever be one.
Smudge, inside the ring, I mean, what memories do you have of him? Because I know a lot of people have been listening to the tributes and it's always been about the Costa Zoo fight, which I can understand. But are there any other ones that, potentially for you, that really stand out?
Absolutely. I mean, the way he ripped through a lot of the tough journeyman fighters early on with those body shots, swiping them out in 2 or 3 rounds. He had to deal with cuts as well, bad cuts. He was heavily cut by in the John Thaxton fight very early on, within 30 seconds of the British title fight at Wembley Conference Centre, and it was a terrible struggle that night. He boxed really well, but he had Mick Williamson in his corner. He used to call him God. He used to fix him up. He went down against Eamon McGee, got up to win. There were scares, but there were also just excitement. I think the Ben Taki fight was a big one for him, and probably the Ray Oliveira one was the fight. Frank matched him beautifully before the Costas night, and I think to get through Ray Oliveira, who was a tough man, I think that gave him the confidence to go into the Sioux fight. He was the underdog, but there was no one beating him that night. He would have walked through walls that night on June the 5th, 2005.
The 2 big fights, I mean, he had lots of big fights, but the 2 that stick in my mind, obviously, sadly, the 2 he lost, Pacquiao, Mayweather. With the Mayweather fight, and there's people have been putting up clips of that, there's that moment where he rocks him as well. I felt, and I said this to Ricky when he came into the studio about 3 months ago, I thought the referee was absolutely appalling in that match. He gave Ricky no time whatsoever, and every time they got close, he broke them up, which I think favoured Mayweather. But in the Pacquiao fight, it was an awful knockout. And you said when you were talking about it, that he never really got over that. What do you think he never really got over, the fact that he lost it or the manner in which he lost that fight?
Ricky was just so for the people. He didn't want to let anyone down. The fans that had travelled for him, that had spent their hard-earned money to be there for him. And I just think maybe it was, a slight embarrassment that it had happened like that. He had all sorts of problems in the build-up. I was with him in camp. He had Floyd Mayweather Sr. training him. Lee Beard came over. It was all a bit difficult. And I think, look, he lost to 2 of the greatest fighters we'll ever see in Mayweather and Pacquiao. Utterly no disgrace. He'd won 43 fights up to that moment, Ricky. The world welterweight champion, the world welterweight champion. He had that comeback fight against Juan Lazcano when he sold out the Etihad. He was a brilliant fighter, former ABA champion too. This was a world champion, and one that we'll remember in the top echelon of British fighters. Maybe not as much as a Lennox Lewis or Calzaghe in terms of natural talent, but the whole package. He ticked every box in. It was the fact that he was so popular, and I think that played on him. And he loved to be out partying with the fans, as well as hard training for 15 weeks before each. He was like a monk in training camp, and then he just let himself go, and it was down the pub and the curries and the Guinness and all that. And that's what made him so real, and that's what made him so relatable, a working class hero. And I think, yeah, maybe he struggled. I think sportsmen and women, I mean, Darren will tell you that when you finish, it's tough, right? You've been doing something for so long, particularly in boxing, and you've done it from a young age. He started kickboxing at 7. And I think when the lights go out or the adrenaline's not there, you've got to find a purpose. I thought he had, with his training, with his family, his beautiful children, his granddaughter. And as I said, Paul said he was in a really good place, a few days ago. And it's just an absolute thunderbolt. And it's just so sad.
Okay, we're going to have a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll look back at a busy weekend of boxing and look ahead to a couple of super fights that are just around the corner. This is Champions League Drive on talkSPORT. Adam, let's look back at the weekend's fight between Terence Crawford and his win over Canelo Alvarez. It was a bit, I don't know why, it was a bit of an anticlimax for us, and I'm talking for everyone in this country, not that I've spoken to everyone. How did it go down in world boxing? Because you got 2 pound for pound, 2 of the greatest for a long time, and yet we're not getting as excited as we would be if it was, I don't know, Tyson Fury against AJ. Derek Chisora.
Yeah, we said, haven't we, in the last 2 or 3 weeks that it sort of slipped under the radar a little bit. More of a trade matchup maybe than seeping into the casuals, like, as you said, Fury Joshua or something like that would. I mean, it was a super fight, and Terence Crawford, I always felt when the fight was announced that his IQ, his skill set, his movement would give Canelo a lot of trouble. I think Canelo had problems with, obviously, Dimitri Bivol and William Skull last time out, and I think it was the right time for Terence Crawford. I didn't think the weight would be too much of a problem, provided he was careful in the first 3 or 4 rounds, which he was, but then he stood with Canelo. I thought it was a brilliant performance. It was a masterclass from a phenomenal fighter, and it was his coming out party, 40-odd million watching on Netflix, and finally people know the name of Terence Crawford. Deservedly so. Brilliant fighter.
Where does he go next, Terence Crawford? Because he is, I mean, I've known about him for a long time, and this fight, as you said there, because we spoke about it, he's a superstar without being a superstar. But after beating Canelo in the manner that he did, where does he go next?
That's a really good question. I remember when he came over and beat Ricky Burns all those years ago.
Yeah.
I never thought he'd gone and achieve what he has. He's been unbelievable now, the world super middleweight king, a welterweight. I mean, where does he go? Could he possibly go up? Surely not to light heavyweight. That's too much of a jump. Who does he fight? Does he fight Canelo in a rematch? Do people want to see that again? I don't know. It's a really tough one. Hamza Shiraz was waiting for, hoping that Canelo would win. He's going to get a shot at some point soon. But yeah, I don't know. Crawford could stay there, go down. He can do what he wants. He's earned his stripes. A little bit like Alexander Usyk, and people want to see the Joe Parker fight. But Usyk is the boss. He's proved himself as the pound for pound king. Now Terence Crawford is arguably also the pound for pound king, and they deserve whatever the future brings them. Their legacy is there forever.
Over 41 million sounds to me an insane number of people to watch a boxing match. Where does that rank amongst the highest numbers? Do you know?
It's big, but
it's huge, isn't it?
It is huge. The Netflix audiences are huge, and that's great. I think that's massive. Obviously, I've worked with Sky and I work with DAZN now, and we get big audiences on pay-per-view fights, but this is very different. Netflix is obviously global and different numbers, but it's fantastic for our sport, Andy. It's just brilliant that people are watching a master like Terence Crawford at work against someone like Canelo with a huge event, all the celebrities there, the star-studded Vegas, and it was fantastic that Turki Al-Sheikh went over there. It was, we've had some great fights and nights in Riyadh, but it was a special one, and Vegas was the right place for it.
I don't know if you know the answer. I'm sure you do. I didn't watch it because it was like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Was it free on Netflix?
Yes, it was, but it was later than that. Actually, it was really late. It was really early hours because we've been doing.
What time was it? Because I could have been up for that.
About 5 or something, or 5:45. But it was we'd had the Crocker Donovan fight in Belfast, which was a great fight in itself. 20,000 people at that. Fantastic night. Really, really good one, and a good bill as well. And Molly McCann turned pro as well on the card. But yeah, we watched it. We were watching it in the Addy and I were watching it in the airport very, very early on Sunday morning. And I mean, we both thought Crawford was going to win, and it was just was he going to get the decision? Was he going to win by? I thought he won by more than the card said, but I thought it was a really, really good performance. And Canelo is a great, great fighter, and the brand Canelo is huge, but Crawford is the man.
How much credit do you think? And I think he deserves a lot of credit, because when you look at these super fights, I remember they'd come around maybe once or twice a year in terms of the super fights, but it feels like with Turki Al-Sheikh now, they're coming every couple of weeks, and I'm talking about the best of the best. How much credit does he deserve? And as you said there, not only in Riyadh is he doing it, he's doing it in Vegas. He's done a big card here in England. He deserves.
Of course, he's changed the whole picture of boxing. Yeah. It's been phenomenal. And look what we've got to come. Not only have we got fantastic Saturday fight nights with Eddie and Frank over the next few weeks, but we've got Eubank Ben, the press conferences tomorrow. That's November 15th. And then we're back in Riyadh, November the 22nd, with a huge night, probably the best card of the year, with Benavidez and Yard and Devin Haney's on it, and Bam Bam Rodriguez, and Sam Noakes has got an opportunity for a world title. It's a phenomenal card, and it doesn't just stop there. Then we're going to have probably Moses back. We've got Parker and Wardley back end of October. I mean, it's a great time for boxing.
Listen, thanks so much for coming in, Smudger. The first part of our chat couldn't have been easy for you. I'm sorry for your loss. I know he was a very close friend of yours, but I appreciate you being so honest and sitting down and talking about the great man.
It's really hard, sometimes when you have to put your professional, your broadcasting hat on, and you get so close to fighters, and there was no one that the Sky team got closer to than Ricky Hatton, and I've spoken to a lot of them in the last 48 hours, and everybody at Sky, at DAZN, everybody around the world just sends so much love and thoughts with the Hatton family, Campbell and Millie and Fern, his children, and granddaughter Lila, and Ray and Carol and Matt and Jenna, and it just is, it's devastating. And look, if there's anything we can do to help the family, we're there for them.
Okay. We're going to have a quick break, more from me and Benji after this.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.